Well, here it is, folks. The classic North American whitetail combination in the 20th century. 30-30 lever action. You couldn't beat it. Folks say this has taken more whitetail than any other cartridge in history. Whether or not that's true, I don't know, but there may be clouds on the horizon. The 30-30 could be on its way out in preference for the new 30-30 of the 21st century. The 300 Blackout? Yeah, the 300 Blackout. This little shrimp of a cartridge is going to keep up with the 30-30. You've got to be kidding me. Well, maybe not, guys. I didn't believe it at first, but I did some numbers, and I'm afraid we're looking at a couple of cartridges that perform awfully similarly. Before we talk about what might be driving a new ultimate 30 caliber whitetail hunting rifle in the 21st century, let's consider the ballistics so that it makes a little bit of sense. Obviously, we pretty much know what the 30-30 does. I mean, even if you don't know how fast it goes or how much energy it delivers, you know that it is effective on whitetail. And part of the reason it's so popular in the woods, of course, are the rifles it's chambered for. Generally, it's the lever action, slab-sided, fairly short, 20-inch barrels. It's just handy in the woods, quick to recycle, and there's just a lot of pizzazz when you carry one. You just feel like you belong out in the woods. It's the old Cowboy Gun. Been around since the 1894 is when the rifle came out. The first lever action 30-30 was the Winchester Model 94. And boy, after that, Marlin started selling them by a truckload, and now Henry sells them by the truckload. Everybody loves cowboy guns, lever actions. But what does this cartridge actually do? How does this bullet fly compared to this modern 21st century 300 Blackout? You look at them and you think there's no way this little guy can keep up. Let's go to the tail of the tape, guys. So we're going to show a 150 grain bullet on each of these. Obviously, the one in the 30-30 is going to be a flat nose. We've got a spire point in the 300 Blackout, and that's part of the reason it keeps up. And we're going to drive this one 2,300 feet per second, which is a little bit fast for the 20-inch barrels, but it's a little bit slow for the 24-inch barrels, so we're just kind of cutting the difference there. And with the Blackout, those numbers came from a 16-inch barrel. So you could boost those up a little bit by stretching the barrel, I'm thinking. But this will give us a general idea of how these two compare. All right, we're going to drive this thing 2,300 feet per second, 30-30, and at 100 yards, we're going to be 3 inches high. Now, why 3 inches high? It's my good old maximum point-blank range sighting system. I'm not going to miss a whitetail if I aim for the center of its chest and I strike him 3 inches high. That's the highest my trajectory is going to go with this setup. After the 3-inch, it's going to start to drop, but that lets me extend my range a little bit farther. So that's why it's 3 inches high. But the wind deflection, what's that in a 10-mile-an-hour right angle wind? 1.8 inches, nothing to worry about. Energy, plenty of it, 1,316 foot-pounds. Go out to 200 yards, you got 1.3 inches of drop. That's just a little bit below your aim point. You're going to get your deer out to 200 yards if you can see straight and shoot straight. And you still got almost 1,000 foot-pounds of energy, 967. Wind deflection, 7.5 inches. Starting to get a little problematic. You really understand that. But then a lot of the woods hunting doesn't have big wind. It's not like you're out in pronghorn country in Wyoming. And then at 300 yards, you're dropping 17.7 inches, and that's why the 30-30 is not known as a long-range reach. 18 inches of wind deflection, that's pretty bad. And your energy's dropped to 704, but I know that is still going to take a whitetail. I've seen it happen plenty of times. Now let's compare that to this little 300 Blackout. 150 grain bullet again, but notice it's going slowly, 2,100 feet per second. You've still got it hitting 3 inches high at 100. The wind deflection is a little bit to its advantage, only 1.2 inches of deflection at 100. And the energy is really not that far behind the 30-30 either, 1,223 foot-pounds of energy. Step out to 200 yards, they're marching neck and neck. You've got 1.8 inches of drop, 5 inches of deflection in the wind, and over 1,000 foot-pounds of energy in that little guy. And then at 300 yards, it really starts to show its stuff. It's still dropping a little bit more at 18.2 inches, but look at the wind deflection, only 11.6 inches. That's pretty helpful if you want to try a 300-yard shot. And the energy is actually higher than the 30-30. This is why I say the 300 Blackout could be considered, and I think it is by many folks, the 30-30 of the 21st century. And of course, to say that, you really have to have some kind of a mass movement of people toward a specific kind of rifle. And just as the lever action was the rifle to have in the 20th century, here's the new one. You just can't argue it. There are so many people who dote on the modern sporting rifle or the AR-15 platform rifle that I just see it becoming kind of a standard, especially because of our military. You know, the kids come out of the military and they've learned to shoot with a rifle that's shaped like this, so they're familiar with the function, where the safety is, and how to load the magazines and just all the rest of it. Hi friends, Ron Spomer here. Say several years ago I started a YouTube channel. It's blossomed and it's really been fun. Now, we have a lot of support from the Patreon community. It's a community that supports creators like me, helps us make these videos. If you'd like to join Ron Spomer Outdoors Patreon community, you can donate as little or as much as you'd like. You get early access to the videos, newsletter, and you get to ask me personal questions. We'd love to have you. Check out the link below or the tab above. Join me on Patreon. Hunt honors and shoot straight. Now, something else you want to consider. With the 30-30, you are generally going to be shooting 150 to 170 grain bullets. Hornady has out some 140 grain all copper bullets. They've got the 160 grain monoflex. I think we've got one here. So there are some options, and some of the Barnes bullets, you're going to get some different weights, but generally you're in that 150 to 170 range. You'd use a 170 for more penetration. That's what guys would generally choose for shooting larger animals like black bear or elk, some of them even moose. But what are you going to do with that little 300? You've got the 150 grain bullet on there. Can that little guy handle more weight than that? Actually, surprisingly, yes. This thing was originally developed as a whisper. The 300 Whisper, J.D. Jones was working on that. And the idea was to drive it at subsonic velocities, 1,100, 1,000 feet per second, somewhere in that range. And they will go up to as heavy as 220 grain 30 caliber bullets in that little guy. Is that wild or what? Now, you'd think, well, going that slow, can it possibly work? Can it be effective on game? Yeah, by golly, it can be, and it really is, because there's so much mass and weight in that bullet, and it'll tumble. I don't think it expands as much once it gets, but it'll tumble, and it will penetrate just because of the momentum. All that mass continues to drive. A lot of guys report that who hunt hogs with them. And then, of course, they'll put suppressors on it so the hogs don't hear it coming, more or less. They, of course, don't hear anything coming at velocity like that. If you're shooting faster than the speed of sound, they're not going to hear the boom from the gun before the bullet gets there. But if you're below the speed of sound, they could. At any rate, you can also go really light with these guys. And I mean really light. Like 75, 78 grains. I've seen bullets and loaded in this stuff that light. 110 is pretty common, and I think we got 110 right here. Yeah, this is 110 grain flat-based tipped bullet from Nosler. So got a lot of options in the 300. Not quite as many ammo options in the 30-30 unless you're a hand loader. So it's becoming extremely popular, and I think that's why it just could be, in a 300 Blackout, the new woods rifle for whitetail hunting. Now, to demonstrate that, I think we really should go outside and show how these two rifles function in the woods, get a little bit better idea of what's going on there, and see if it doesn't make a little more sense. Now, I don't know that when this is all over, I'm going to be voting for this baby and the 300 Blackout as my favorite whitetail cartridge. But then again, I wasn't born yesterday, so I have some biases. I took my first whitetails with a 30-30 in a lever action, and I've got a soft spot for them, and they're just so much fun. But let's go out in the woods, put these two up against each other, and see what we discover. Hey, welcome to the whitetail woods. Obviously, it's not whitetail season, but you know what it's all about. When you're hunting in the thick woods, a quick, handy rifle is what you need, and that's why the models that are lever action, chambered for 30-30, have been so popular for so long. Quick, handy, maneuverable, generally don't wear a sling to carry these things. We've always carried them in our hands like an upland shotgun. When we were kids, we just walked around the woods till we found something to shoot, just like I demonstrated, and we usually got our deer. But as I was saying, these days that 300 Blackout has got a pretty good chance of being the new woods rifle. And the reasons are, well, actually there's plenty of them. It's short and handy. Many of them have 16 to 18 inch barrels. And that 300 Blackout is just awfully good matchup to a 30-30 with a 16-inch barrel. So you've really got a compact little setup. Now, obviously you can get these rifles with buttstocks that are foldable, extendable length of pull. They're just more, well, they're modular. You can adjust them to fit several members of the family. And you can even change uppers and get different cartridges in them if you want to. I don't see a big advantage in having a large magazine. Most states will only let you work with a 5-shot magazine at the most anyway. Some states do not allow auto-loading rifles for deer hunting, so you want to consider that. But where it's legal, and if you feel comfortable shooting one of these, might be the gun for you. Because the 300 Blackout cartridge can certainly do the job. Now, I'm not going to shoot this one because it's not even a 300 Blackout, it's a 223, which some guys like too, but it's no 30-30, and we all know that one. But yeah, you just want to consider all those options. Obviously, there's a scope on this, and there's an advantage in that. The old timers didn't have scopes or didn't use them, but boy, I found out that I sure can shoot better with a scope, even on my lever actions. So yeah, you've got all kinds of options. The nice thing is, here in the US of A, we get to make our own decisions. If you like the good old-fashioned cowboy gun, that lever action fun gun in 30-30, it's been doing the job for a long, long time, and it will continue. But if you're sort of new school and you trained and learned to shoot with an AR-15 style rifle, you get that baby in 300 Blackout, and you're riding right along with the 30-30 crowd as far as the ability of that cartridge to handle whitetails. Hey, this is Ron Spomer. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Hunt honest and shoot straight.